Hey guys, I'm Voylin, and in today's video I'll be talking about Lingodeer. Lingodeer is an app which has over 10 million installs and a rating of 4.4 stars. But is this application worth using or not? Well, I have a streak of 175 days and finished both their Japanese 1 and Japanese 2 course, so I think I have enough experience with the application to talk about it. In this video I'd like to go over the application, its features, my personal experience, the pros, cons, and if I will continue using Lingodeer and if I can actually recommend other people to use it as well. First of all, I'd like to begin by saying that they have both a website version and a phone version. I'll mainly be talking about the phone version as I found the website to be not very convenient to use, and the website version is lacking some very basic features which are available on the phone version. I used Lingodeer only for Japanese, but they have a ever-growing amount of support for other languages as well. When you start the Japanese course, you can choose to first learn the alphabet separately, or you can directly start learning words and sentences. If you want, you can also skip ahead to further chapters if you already have some Japanese knowledge. Each lesson exists out of multiple smaller lessons, like practice sessions, together with some learning tips and practice with a story. Besides that, there is also a flashcard style review system, a 5-minute quiz, vocab, grammar review, and also knowledge cards. These knowledge cards are basically kind of like short information points of all the previous lessons. Basically the kind of combined a summary of the learning tips. Besides that, there's also a day streak system, daily XP thing to see if you're actually studying enough, and an achievement system. My personal experience with this app goes back quite a bit. I remember using this application in the very early days, and if my memory is correct, it used to be completely free at the time, but it only had like Korean, Chinese, and Japanese, I think. I think that's the 3 languages that it started with at the time when I started using the application. I used it for a couple of weeks, but then I got a little bit too busy to study Japanese properly, and then I kind of forgot that this application existed. But then I used it again after some time, and I actually got a lifetime membership. And then I got too busy again and I stopped using it again for some time. And then we go back 175 days ago, where I picked up the application and I said to myself, now I'm going to go through the Japanese 1 and Japanese 2 course, and I really wish I kept using this application from the beginning, because when I was starting out with Japanese, I found the application so helpful to learn Japanese with. If life hadn't gotten busy, I would have been able to use that longer, and my Japanese would have probably been a lot better by this point, because it's a very good application, especially for in the beginning when you're studying Japanese. Say 175 days ago I removed my previous progress which I had from before, and then I went to the application again completely without skipping any level, so I did every single thing. And like I said, I always loved this application, especially in the beginning when I started learning Japanese. It was simple to use, the learning tips, card things were very helpful as well. Before I would do the lessons, I would go through the learning tips so I would know what I would actually see, and that would help a lot to go through the practice without any problems. And the way that the lessons are laid out, like the whole structure of the lessons, the whole order in what things get taught, it's quite nicely done. I think everything is very nicely balanced from Japanese 1 and Japanese 2, except Japanese 2 towards the end, because of all the politeness level stuff. The difficulty increases by quite a lot, but that's more the Japanese language that you can blame for that, and not really the application. I should also say, like, I'm really not a big fan of their whole reviewing system, and I really wish they put a little bit more work in navigating all the levels of the application and a little bit more work into the website. But especially the reviewing system really needs a lot more of attention, in my opinion. A lot more work needs to be done on that to make it actually usable. It's not fun to use, there's no spaced repetition, and it's quite monotone. It's basically a flashcard system without anything special going on, and especially not having spaced repetition basically makes it a no-go for me to use it. I would prefer to add everything into my Anki deck and learn it like that. So let's go over the pros of Lingodeer. First of all, their lessons are quite well balanced. That's something I've been talking about already, but it's really a lot better than most other applications I've used for studying Japanese. Second, it's probably the best application that you can have for starting to learn Japanese. Because of the learning tips, the whole balance structure of everything, the way that the practicing works as well, it's a simple application to use, and it really guides you through the Japanese language quite nicely. So it's a very good application for beginners. The third point is the voices in this application actually sound good. Like, I don't know for people who are using Duolingo, but most of those things are kind of computer generated sound. Like, it really sounds a lot like computer generated. It's all AI voice stuff, and I really dislike that about Duolingo. But I have yet to come across a moment that it sounds like a computer generated program. I have no idea if it's actually like all spoken in sentences, or if it's also kind of like combination like Duolingo does. But the audio sounds quite nice in Lingodeer, and especially when you're learning the language and need to get used to the different sounds and such of the language, it's so helpful. But yeah, it's fun to learn, especially with all the art styles and everything, the little data that guides you through the entire experience. Like, it's something very small, but yeah, it just makes using the application a lot more fun. But then we come to the section that I talk about the negatives about Lingodeer, and over the cons, honestly, there are really not many bad things to say about this application, except for the following points. Number one, like I said before, the reviewing system, like the options for reviewing your vocab and grammar that you learn, it's lacking. It's not very good, and if you know how if you see how the lessons work, like the lesson practice works, and then you have the reviewing system, which is so monotone, and it's kind of unusable, in my opinion, to actually use it for reviewing your stuff that you've learned in the application. You're better off putting everything into Anki and using Anki for the repetition for the reviewing. Another point is there are no detailed statistics, and yeah, like, you may not really care that much about that, but even your daily XP, you can only see it from the past 7 days. You cannot go further back to see, like, how did I actually study the past couple of months. Like, I have 175 days and I can only see the last 7 days. This is not a deal breaker for me personally, but I know a lot of people who really like to have those kind of statistics. That's why Memrise has them, Anki has them, and then we come to the biggest con of all, and yeah, that's something like, I used the application when it was free and when it became paid. Like, I'm glad that I received premium lifetime, because the price is kind of high, and the price right now is around $14 a month or $80 a year. I think that's a kind of a high price to pay. Even for the high quality you get, I still find it a little bit of a high price. Luckily, they also offer a quarterly option, which is only around like $40. And if you do around 2 lessons each day, you can probably finish it within this quarterly time period. So that will be $40 to go through the 2 courses, Japanese 1 and Japanese 2 on Lingodeer. Most points are things that can be worked upon, and I hope that they will focus a lot more on those points, like improving the reviewing system and such, or their site version, instead of keep adding new languages. These points are not really big deal breakers, but they do kind of limit the application after you finish. Especially like the whole reviewing thing, the moment that you finish those courses of the language that you wanted to learn, there's not really much use in keep using Lingodeer, in my opinion. But now the question, do I recommend Lingodeer, and will I keep using it? Well, after I finish both Japanese 1 and 2, of their courses, I don't see any point of keep using it. I've said it a couple of times already, the reviewing system is just not good enough. I will keep using Lingodeer eventually. Not for Japanese, but to learn Korean and Chinese, because those are 2 languages that I still want to learn in the future, possibly near future, depending on how well my Japanese expands and how quickly I can pass the JLPT in 2 or maybe JLPT in 1. But yeah, I'm still planning on learning all the languages, so this application is still kind of useful for me, because like I said, they're probably one of the better applications to learn Asian languages with. And as for, do I recommend Lingodeer? Yeah, fully. I think it's one of the better applications to actually learn Japanese with, and I can fully understand why it has 10 million installs and 4.4 stars. That's on the Android store. I don't know about the iPhone store, I don't have an iPhone, I don't care about the iPhone. But it's basically the perfect starting point for when you're starting to learn Japanese. And combine this application with something like Human Japanese so you have more of an insight in the more of the culture and the grammar points more in depth. And then Anki for all the reviewing, and you are basically good to go on your beginning of your Japanese language studying, learning journey. If the price is really an issue, I'd recommend starting when you are certain that you can invest the needed time to finish this course, like the 2 courses of Japanese 1 and 2, within 1 or 2 months. If you study 2-3 lessons a day, you can easily finish it in 2 months. If you can do a little bit more and actually like take notes as well while going through the learning tips and such, and put them into your Anki or in a notebook, by example, those 2 months of paying for Lingodeer will have been paying off a lot. Like, it will really be worth the value that you paid for it. But if you really want to use this application and you have a possible interest in learning more languages in the future, I would really suggest getting the lifetime option, because if you end up spending a couple of months in the application, you're almost near the price of the lifetime version. So just be careful, sometimes there are like discounts that you can have it for a lot cheaper. If you can get it around that kind of a time, when you're actually planning on learning multiple languages in the application, it's really recommended to get the lifetime. What do you think of Lingodeer? Do you use it? Do you think it's too expensive? Do you think it's cheap? Do you think that there are better options? Please let me know and let all people know as well. Just put your thoughts in the comments below. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Good luck with Japanese and I'll see you in the next one. Mata ne. Bye bye.